else is wrong?
No.
648. Forgive me, Lord.
Did you?
Hi, how are you doing?
To see you,
Nice to see you.
Did you keep any copies? I see that you got one, right? Those baseball country presentation.
Yeah. See, Rob gave me this.
Okay, yeah, because she didn't get one. She wasn't here at the last meeting, and you left yours or something. So I've got this extra, and that way they can have some.
So this must belong to somebody.
I don't know, but you can use that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bill, do we have to sign in comments?
No, I'll just call for comment. There's Melissa. We got the form.
Okay, they just gonna go in.
By the way, I'm going to, I'm just going to send a letter of commander saying that we need that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bring,
Okay.
because the Bible will say that.
Well, I'm gonna give my case for not being here last time, because I had it written on my bills table for 9 and then May 20th. And so when I went to go look at my,
That's the first one.
but I just want to tell you that culture. I honestly, and I have a tendency to, I have stopped it. One of us county board, and it's the other side there. We don't do that. Yeah.
Spiritual. Think that time we got. Lord keeps us moving.
We did, right? Used to cord the program. That's kind of on your way on that one.
No, you plug it in, you should be good, right? I can get off this side.
Let me see if there's plenty of plug. I just don't want anybody to trip this thing. I'm trying to figure out. I guess we can put it on this one. We'll work with that. Make it worse. Okay.
Oh.
Next week is more.
How are you, sir?
Hey, good. How's it going?
Good, good to see you. Yes, yes. Hi, I'm Melissa. Very nice to meet you.
We could probably use a cord for the laptop, or we could use that way.
Yeah, let me see what I can get Andy to help us find something. Hi, how are y'all?
Good.
Hello, Will.
We just will punish you tomorrow. The conference and say we don't need that. We just need to keep our retired
Yeah.
chaplains.
You still coaching soccer?
My season's finished.
Is it done?
Finished March 19th.
Oh, okay. Just in time. It's so hot out there.
Well, we still have all season.
Oh, okay.
I have turned it over to the coach, and I think the more I stay out of it, the better off it will be. You know, if I'm there, girls can't come and say.
You said there's a thing under the table? Oh, they don't know the transition
It's
to the other guy.
It's hurting the transition. so
Right,
I-
right.
Tear the Band-Aid off.
I
I
get,
didn't see anything
I
new.
can let them get ready.
I don't think we're going to need it.
And it's really hard on a team.
Okay.
Stole it?
But he's
Feeling
got a
this,
good
Melissa?
job.
There's a wall cover right there.
Yeah.
How are you, Bill?
I am.
How are you? How are we?
We are better than one.
How are you doing? I'm good. How about yourself? Good to see you.
You here?
Yeah.
Who needed it? She did, I'm
Are you a
sorry.
baseball guy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. I read Zuko Ramos. I'm the Kaufman Challenge.
Okay, so that'll be my
Nice to
wife,
meet you.
Margaret.
Nice to meet you, Margaret.
See if that works. Yeah, we can plug it in right
Yes.
here. It'll work right there with Will.
Even there's probably not nothing from her.
I'll get that for you. Thank you. You're welcome.
She's sick.
That'll reach you.
Discuss. And what it was the difference between a daily rate and a hourly rate didn't match. You could read it very shortly.
But I think we fixed that, and I mean, y'all didn't have the correct,
Okay.
I get what you're
That's
saying.
probably,
there was a couple of, that,
on the-
and I, yes, we worked on that.
There's the latest one that I have, I don't know if it's.
let's call the meeting to order and then we'll get to that.
Bill, before you do that, I'm
Yes.
leaving. Is there anything else that you need?
Not that I know of.
Please lock the door.
I'll lock the front doors
Thank you.
and we'll be out
Right,
here.
you might want to look at it just to make sure we have some.
Okay. It's 6:37, and I'm gonna call this meeting of the 4A Board to order. I have a quorum with Board Member Conley, Chairman Gleason, and Board Member Copham, or Vice President Copham. And we're going to, I'll do the invocation now. Father, be with us and guide us in the decisions we're about to make. Help us to keep in mind equity and fairness to all. Amen. Pledge of allegiance is on our next, and I hope they have this. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. Paige is not here, so I don't think we have the minutes from the last meeting. So we'll come back to that. Citizens to be heard.
Yes, if you don't mind, I would like to go first.
Please.
Thank you for letting us be here this evening. We've been reading the paper. Viola and I are involved with the Historical Society Opry Project, Floresville Opry. And we've been reading in the paper where the prices are going to be substantially raised. And so we were wanting to see if there was any way, because the paper also alluded to the fact that governmental agencies or nonprofits might be exempt from those fees or get a bigger discount. And so we run between 500 and 650 people every quarter. And so we feel like this is something that's really beneficial to the community, and it's something that is not here for anybody else of this genre to use. And so we also know that the city has profited by their having to serve lunch to our 600 people that come and buy food. And so we do not get any part of the concession with that. And so we were just hoping that, being the fact that Wilson County Historical Commission is a governmental agency through the county, yes it is, the commission is a part of the government. We have a president of the commission, which is Chief Meckel. This year we had to elect 14 board members to be approved by the County Commissioners Court for the board that serves, which come out of the Historical Society and one out of, it has some mix. So anyway, well, that was done in January and approved by the Commissioners Court. So that is one of the things that we would like to have y'all consider also, that we are a part of the Wilson County Historical Commission. And so that is why we're here, to see if there's some remedy that we may have, if nothing else, out of not having our prices raised. If they could be lowered, that would be wonderful too. So I do have another meeting, and so Viola is going to take your, and Viola, you have something to say too, I'm sure.
Well, just whatever y'all can do for us.
I had talked to Viola earlier.
So that's our main concern, is because we are providing, and just like the money that we raised, we've already spent $4,000 to the library so they can hire an intern to work there and get the records for the county on computers and online. We've also contributed to all of the historical markers around town. We put a lot of money back into the community. In fact, we put all of our money back into the community. And so we do think that it has really empowered us as an organization since the Opry has begun to do more in the county, particularly historically, and also just community involvement with how we can help different organizations and things that benefit us also. But in the long run, we're benefiting the county. We are an arm of the commission, and we are also making all of our archives. We've gotten together, that has helped us. That's what Centennial got us started on the right track, because we made our own money. The Commissioner's Court put aside $10,000 for us. We did not use one penny of that money, and we are still able to keep our archives going due to that. And then with what Viola has started with the Opry, we are able to look into maybe getting another building for our archives. So it's a growing thing, and but if we don't make a whole lot now, instead of ours thinking today.
Well, we want to keep our prices down, you know, as well, so people on fixing incomes.
Can you tell us how much you pay right now to rent the center?
It's $600, and we get a 30% discount.
So you already received like a discount for a nonprofit?
Yes.
Out of $600. And then we pay a separate sound system also, because that sound system is not able to be used. So that also comes out of our.
How many nonprofits are in this? If you said, not how many nonprofits, how many nonprofits go through this citizen, you know that?
We have quite a few. Yeah, we do. I don't know the exact number, but I would say we have quite a few.
There are several, when you take into consideration the
Fire
churches.
Churches.
And stuff like that. And that's why when we started the first time, that we put a discount on right nonprofits, because that's something that we've never had it for, so it's a place for them to meet and that they can afford. And having been in the nonprofit business for a long time, sometimes not intentionally, but not intended to be that way, it is a heavy burden, and I understand that. And we're going to continue to try to help you as much as we can. Our bottom line is that we're trying to, we've been charged to make this thing as profitable as we can, and trying to do something without stepping on anybody. So thank you for your input, and I promise you.
And we also do a lot of the cleanup too.
So y'all want even a bigger discount than you got right now?
Well, if they're not going to charge governmental agencies, we want to see about that.
Because then we have to do that across the board on nonprofit. Therein lies the.
Let's discuss that in our meeting and continue on with that.
Well, I appreciate y'all hearing this, and
we love it.
You have a difficult position here. We understand that, so we appreciate it.
We appreciate everything that you do for the community.
Okay, well, I have another
Let's go to next question.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We're going to wait just a moment until Ms. Poppin gets back, okay?
It's tough because they're doing such a good job and putting their money where it belongs.
It's a tough business. It's a key. Now, the next thing on the item on the agenda is consideration of possible action to relate to rental and concessions. I would like to move to number 7 and bypass number 6 and come back to it. Last couple of weeks ago, we didn't have a quorum, but we went ahead, our attorney told us to go ahead and listen to their presentation. And I asked them to come back today so that you would hear the same presentation that we heard. Would you like?
Yes, thank you. Leaving alone, and I think everybody has a copy.
Yeah.
I'll just go.
I've got mine, so you two can have that.
Okay, I think it's okay. Sure, these are like a lot of copies. Okay, I'll kind of read off of this, if that's okay. Well, my wife Margaret and I have proposed this baseball company, what we're calling it, Floresville Baseball Community.
Could you give a little bit of your background on
Sure.
this last time?
Sure.
That's what we talked about.
Sure. I'm not originally from Floresville, but I'm a Judson High School graduate, so I'll kind of be brief on my background. Judson High School, U.S. Air Force, got a degree, Southwest Texas State University, and I'm a San Antonio police officer for 24 years, and looking to end my career and start on this career. Married my wife Margaret, best move I ever made, she tells me. She's, you want to tell about yourself?
I'm Assistant Finance Director for the City of San Antonio. I've been there for 21 years, 21 in county. And that's it. We've lived in Floresville for a while.
Over 20 years, we have 2 kids. We became experts at paying money for baseball tournaments and events over the years. And I became a student of learning how to run baseball leagues and things like that. I've been involved in the nonprofit. I'm still in the nonprofit that's not very active, but we've got one final grant, and I kind of want to lean off of that. That's called the El Carmen Society for Community Advancement over at the Church of Bear County, Southern County. So we have experience building a couple of ball fields, tennis court, and playground, bathrooms, things like that. 12-acre piece of property, 15-acre piece of property. So then we did a CYO league. We started one. Back then we had 13 teams, and that's where I got my experience in how this kind of works. I didn't know my kids would ever really play the way they're playing now. I didn't think that we would end up traveling and stuff. So yeah, I did some coaching here in Floresville back when, and one of the boys got competitive, so we learned about that competitive side. I became friends with guys who would coach me, high school coaches, and college coaches, and then even now guys that play pro ball. So we had this idea brewing for a few years, and I've got a good close group of tournament directors, people that we're involved with, and we put this thing together. This opportunity came when I saw some property that I knew that y'all owned and Floresville owned, and then I was kind of pointed towards the property behind the event center. It seems like the perfect venue for what we're trying to do. So we talk about Select Baseball because that's the product that we're trying to bring here to Floresville. Select Baseball. So what is Select Baseball? It's when coaches seek out or select baseball players to play on a competitive team, as opposed to the leagues. The team then practices with the purpose of entering tournaments against other select teams. Select teams can have tryouts to find players, or coaches can approach parents and guardians. Many select coaches play college or pro baseball. So how do these tournaments work? Select coaches or the managers, team moms, team dads, they go online to these organizations. There's like 3 main ones that sanction these tournaments. USSSA, commonly called UTRIP, Nations Baseball, and Super Series Baseball. So Floresville Baseball, we will contract with one of these, and our tournaments will all be sanctioned. Sanctioned meaning there is an organization where they get points, they get ranked. There's goals for them to achieve based on their winnings. They can go to higher level tournaments. They have to have birth certificates on the record. We want to cut out the cheating, and they're just a legit way of doing things. Of course, we have to pay for that. Also, of course, they get trophies and things like that. Insurance, to be sanctioned, the teams themselves have to carry insurance. Very common nowadays. The coach goes to these websites, they register the team. They usually stay close to home. When and we've studied this with these other towns that do this, usually what happens is other teams close by will come and travel there. The local team, that's what's gonna happen here. The local kids will see kids playing from these other areas, Congress, Pleasanton, wherever. They're gonna say, wow, this is pretty common. There are a lot of teams here, and they're on the fields right there. How do we get a part of this? The tournaments are on weekends. So the kids here in the Little League, for example, they're not used to playing a lot of weekends. They almost never play on weekends. So select teams, usually they stay close to home, like I said, but when they do start traveling a little bit away, there are certain hotspot destinations. And some of those destinations are Southeast Metro. I was there yesterday. Dripping Springs, that just got so huge with the venue that started slow and small and kind of rickety, and they just got overwhelmed and ended up building a second one, it's a beautiful facility. Old Settlers Park in Round Rock, that's kind of the ultimate that got all this going. There, the city put in $18.2 million into that. There's just crazy money that they put into it, and it's paid off for them because the location, Central Texas, they get everybody, teams from everywhere, Texas, even out of the state. They have huge tournaments. Of course, they started with 24 fields and kept going. So McAllister Park here locally, Prospect Park in Helotes, Southeast, Normoil, Five Diamonds, all of those are going to be where we have a lot of contacts with coaches, teams, the organizations that send those teams. We will get those people. We will get a lot of teams here from those places primarily, especially McAllister Park. McAllister Park has just exploded with this thing now recently. Their tournament guys tell me, you better expect 40 to 50 teams right off. I mean, we don't even need that many at the beginning. They had their last tournament, they expected 90 teams. They had 124, or 122, something like that. Just, of course, they had 3 hubs. We're going to start with 1 hub. So how do we get Floresville on this list, on this destination list? Really, it's to build these fields and have beautiful fields, have them well kept. And this is how our Floresville baseball country works. Like I said, my wife and I will be the owners. We have an ex-pro ball player. He's out of California. He's also into the maintenance of fields, and that's kind of our ace in the hole guy. Although we have a couple, believe it or not, there's 3 ball players that play professional baseball, and until now, I guess we haven't really said it, but they each of them is looking at what they can do to relocate here, and the reason is they've realized there's no competition for select baseball, and there's no fields in San Antonio and elsewhere. They don't have, these guys that play pro ball, this market came up about 10 years ago, they played pro ball, and they realized people will pay them money for their kid, to train their kid every month. So if they have 12 kids on a team, you can see if they have 4, 5, 6, 7 teams, you can see how now they make a living. And these guys are telling me, get it done, because we want in on it. But the main one here that I'm talking about is in our group. He'd be the lead guy with me as a tournament director. A high school coach that coaches in San Antonio. A local guy who's coached a lot of youth ball, has all the ins and outs of Floresville. And a businessman in San Antonio he owns an indoor baseball facility now, and they run 7 teams. He had 10 teams, and it was just too big for the warehouse he had. And so he's a real good partner of ours. We're doing as the business end. And as we get going on this, that's another avenue that we can explore is the indoor facility. So our initial investment of $250,000, 4 to 6 quality ball fields. 4 is probably more likely, but it doesn't mean that they won't be that 6 is out of the question. What happens in this business is that it's found real quick that you build smaller fields and they're less expensive and they actually bring in more revenue. If we do, the 4 fields that we're gonna start with are varying sizes that we know the age groups are hot for getting that, you know, for a lot of teams. San Antonio would have to do it for the market that's there. So we can't do a lot of big fields where there's fewer teams. That said, the latest market that's coming from Houston here are actually tiny fields that look too tiny to play on, and they're just so cute looking, and there's like 99-foot fences and 101 in center. And they're doing that because these people over there are so rabid about this, and there's so many people that participate in this stuff that they get these little 4 to 6-year-olds on teams, and those are practically free. They just want to draw people in, but they all want to see little Johnny on the baseball field that looks like a miniature pro diamond field. So we kind of know the strategies, and that's our intention on that. So in other words, that's why I say here that they're tailor-made for select baseball tournaments, not maybe what some people would consider when they think of a baseball field. Floresville Baseball Country will build new bathroom facilities. Of course, as I mentioned, or I have mentioned in the past, a lot of this will be done in phases, and some we're hoping to be able to negotiate with y'all, but our plan is to build some facilities already at the spot where we're doing the fields. We will build a central batting cage area. Again, that'll probably be phased in because there are options that we have for y'all that you might like better than what you think of when you think of a central batting cage area. A quality concession stand, a menu. We know we have run concessions before when we ran our league and so forth, and we're pretty much on top of what the good strategy is to bring in the biggest bang for your buck on the concessions, you know, with these tournaments. The cleanliness, we're very big on that. We know that the event center, for example, is a beautiful facility. It's going to be a priority. We know that when people go to these things, that first impression, you just can't emphasize it enough. For us to have an opportunity to bring in the amount of teams and the amount of people in Floresville, with that beautiful event center and that huge parking in front and back, even if we're not using that front parking, your event center, our event center, others can't compete with that. The latest ones that have come online doing this, they're being successful right now on places that cannot hold a candle to what we have today. You just can't. A regular guy cannot come in and have an event center there and build property back there. We understand that. Floresville Baseball Country will phase in other quality features and things that we know. My phone is full of pictures and videos from ballparks all over the place. So we want to have nice landscaping. We don't like some of the over-the-top concrete that we're seeing in some of the new ones. We don't need that. We need good turf. Of course, we need concrete sidewalks and so forth. We will have the plans drawn. You know, George Zapata is a guy I've worked with in the past. He's an engineer right now. He's working with All Pro Construction, but we've worked on things in the past that I can't get a better deal on. He'll be our project manager. He's got drawings for this. He's at Lackland in the meeting, Lackland Air Force Base. He couldn't give me the drawing there. I can email the drawings. You all know the event center. The property behind the event center, behind that back parking lot, 4 ball fields is our first phase. The second one would mirror that with an opening for what we'll see later in this presentation. We're leaving plenty of space. We have to plan on this being popular and financially profitable, because that's the way they've gone. If anything, the ones we're seeing now are not keeping up. They don't have the space. So we have the space there. The third phase, I have a drawing for that already, but I have it on my phone, and of course I can provide it. And that was when our intention was to use the arena area. I understood later that there might be some use of that arena still and so forth. But we have a plan for that. That might be several years down the road. But I'm just saying that these have taken off in other cities where there's no other really baseball, select baseball tournaments going on, you have to be prepared for growth on that. Our tournaments, again, they'll be sanctioned. We'll have a website, of course, and it'll include the calendar of events. So people go in there, you can go on, you'll be able to see all the events. Now, we plan on having tournaments every weekend. That's scheduled every weekend for 10 months. And you might look at that and say, well, that's a lot of tournaments. We have to schedule them. That's how we can afford to get our money back. Some of the tournaments won't be as huge as others. Some will be ginormous. But then you have a rainout. You might have 2 rainouts in a row. And we are counting on tournaments to make this revenue. If you have the tournament and it's scheduled and you get the teams in, you're going to be profitable. So luckily, we're in a place with great weather, abundant land. We think we have a home run. We really think this is going to take off. The time that we'll take off, December 15th to February 15th, we'll schedule no events. If anything, it'll just be maintenance on the fields and getting them ready. Nowadays, once February 15th comes, Helotes has 3 fields that they use. Prospect Park, I know the guy that runs that. By February 15th, he's got 30 teams if he wants it. He doesn't want them so much. They don't have lights. He runs them with 3. He's been doing it many years. So we kind of see what he's doing and what he may not want to do, what we may not want to do. So yeah, you can start right at February. Our tentative schedule, and this may not happen right away with 4 age groups on each other weekend, but that's what we have if you see it in the presentation. 6U means 6 and under, 9 and under, 11 under, 13 under. That's what we mean when we say 13U, 12U. The fields won't be bigger than to accommodate 14U sized age kids. Select teams carry their own insurance, as I've mentioned. The birth certificates have to be documented with the sanctioning organizations. Somerset came online recently. I was told, and I don't know this for sure, that their first round of tournaments were not sanctioned. So we know other places that have them in San Antonio where they're not sanctioned. We don't want a part of that. We want them to be sanctioned. It seems to be a more legitimate process. Teams register online. They schedule. The way it works is the coaches or the team mom or whoever it is will check online on Wednesday evening. They'll have their schedule. There are people right now that I was talking to this weekend, every weekend, and we were at East Metro in Austin. Friends of mine, people we've known for years, and they're like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to get going? We want to stay over there. They got a new La Quinta. I said, I know. So we're not even counting on travel yet. That hits later. But we know from experience, yeah, it happens. We never thought we'd stay over in Austin. It's like, why? If we drive there for a tournament once a month, once every six weeks, why would we stay over there? Now we wouldn't do it any other way. We go on Friday evening, we play in Round Rock. We want to be there because we might play at 8 in the morning. And so the boys, and now we know Round Rock, so we know how to enjoy it Friday and mix in our other things, whether it's bowling or movie or whatever it is. And that becomes part of what these families do. It's like, and people have said to me in the past, yeah, but they don't have a bowling thing in Florida. In Floresville, they don't have this or that. We've stayed in places where, we were in East Metro, drive out there. East Metro has beautiful fields, but you get lost by driving through the woods. There's nothing out there. The new one in Seguin, you drive through there, there's way less than there is here, but he's got nice fields, so it's packed over there. Teams will go where the fields are, and the fields are nice, and they'll stay and participate and spend their money and spend their time in whatever you have in your city. Let's see. Of course, we award trophies, and medals, or whatever things, awards. The way, again, it's in the presentation how the actual tournaments work. There's pool play on Saturday. They get seeded based on how they perform on Saturday. So on Saturday, all these teams usually are congregating somewhere. They're at Chili's, or they're hanging out at their hotel, or they're here or there. Saturday's a big evening. They're looking at where do we come out, where our seat come out. Oh, we got to play Event Center, 8 a.m. We didn't get seated that high. Or now we play at noon. So that means you're going to get teams staying. In 2014 tournament, you're gonna have 6 teams, 8 teams staying after, say, 4 p.m. because they're the ones that have survived the tournament. And they're gonna be playing still into the evening. If you go to the track meet, like my kids run track over here, everybody showed up at Waterbury at the same time. The other school buses showed up and we overran Waterbury. And I'm not saying, you know, that there's only Waterbury, but obviously as things develop, you know, it's going to be, there's going to be people here for them, especially those Sunday evenings, all the time, on weekends. The tournament fees. These tournament fees here, if I was to show them to the folks in San Antonio, they'd say, there's no way you're going to charge that, because everybody charges more, except some of those that charge or don't have sanctioned tournaments or, you know, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's hard to find it this inexpensive, but this is more or less, this is around middle ground to a little lower the prices. It looks like, well, why wouldn't you have a lot of 12U to 14U if it's $300 per team? Well, there's not as many teams. So at the 6U to 9U and all the way up to 11U, there's a ton of teams. And so your fields have to cater to that. You can imagine on the low end, our pro forma had been based on 2014 tournament. We think we're going to have more, but we're trying to be safe with that. So the fees you see there are based on if we had 3 age groups, 8 teams at each age division.
Is that for, I'm sorry, is that for 4 fields? Or?
Yes, this would be for 4 fields. And we could do it with 4 fields. You usually have what's called a 3-game minimum. Now, there's some ways to work it that we've been involved with where you have, depending on who enters, you have a bye. Oftentimes one age division doesn't have 8, but your other one has 10. So you can manage this amount on 4 ball fields, unlit. They've managed it with 3 ball fields, unlit. So we know we can do it. It's just about the age group that you cater to your particular field. Now, as we go on, we'll talk about other fields because basically we're going to want more fields, and we have those things in the works. But initially, the ones that we build will be 4. Did that answer your question? With these, the potential for community service and special events that will set us apart, we feel like this one's really important. Because if you go to, say, Ramon Lucio Parks started years ago on this, they jumped in because everybody's going around Rockland baseball. They're halfway, they're like, what is this? They had 4 fields, I believe, in their first, and they were old. Our fields, the fields that the Little League uses, were a little bit nicer than Ramon Lucio Field, and they just got overrun. It was just packed because of their great location on 35. Now they have a second location as well. That one's packed too. Well, these things have no real, it's not about a town, you know, it's not selling San Marcos. It's not selling Round Rock. That's all, you know, you're lost in the big town, so to speak. The advantage here at Floresville, we feel like we can do it to where everybody knows this business, these fields. We know we're leasing. We're not going to be around forever. They're going to be, those fields will be around much longer than I am for Floresville. So if it's already set from the beginning that this is a very community-oriented thing with the veterans, you see sponsorship of veterans events for Floresville Veterans Home and residents. And yeah, we are trying to reach out to some corporate sponsorship, but not for any of this stuff we're building. But our idea is to see who we might get to sponsor things like flags and help us with the days we bring the veterans to the fields and have special days and events for veterans. The Veterans Home is right there. It's got to be a big deal here in Floresville. The big one here to me is the development of and to host Floresville Miracle League. We know we're going to be swamped with this business and getting it done as well as possible. But we feel like the Floresville Miracle League, the more you learn about it, that some nonprofits here in town will want to jump on that and bring it to Floresville. If you do get it to Floresville, and I urge you to look into what the Miracle League is. The Miracle League is a league for special needs kids. The one that they do in San Antonio is near Mission Stadium, outside in the parking lot area. Beautiful, small facility that's made for wheelchairs and all kinds of devices to get on, and they host a league with these kids. We've gone there, and it is just an experience that I can't explain to you. You gotta kind of see it. But if we could bring that to Floresville, and I know that it's hard with nonprofits like you were talking about, Mr. Gleason. I know, man, that's a tough one. I'm just saying that if we do get this thing going the way we know we will, we're gonna have the nice ball fields, and there'll be a space there for it. We're already gonna be there working, you know, putting on the tournaments and stuff. And we would say, we'll work this tournament, or rather these games, for the Miracle League, and that's a lot of what they want. The people that can fund these kind of things usually are very, very, you know, have a lot of money that they put into things like this, but they want somebody who's going to step forward and say, well, who's going to maintain this thing? And that's what I'm saying. We can maintain it. Our same guys that work the baseball tournament will staff this thing, and we'll work to bring any group that wants a part of it. The problem with this, I don't say it's a problem, but the thing we've seen is people want to be there helping out these games. And I've told people this, it just kind of really overwhelmed me at the time. Was the head coach for UTSA was working the outfield. His players were out there in the outfield. It's a small field, obviously, and, you know, the way it is. And these are college ball players. And that coach told me, he says, they need to be out here. This is our community service. You know, it was a really humbling thing for him, you know, seeing these big old ball players out there. And they were just touched by these kids in the Miracle League. If we bring that here to Floresville, or we get that going, I think that's just a feather in our cap as far as the perception of this town. Again, these are tough things that it might be tough to bring that here. I don't really know. I just know that we're committed to hosting it and putting it on and helping it in any way we can if it's brought here. I think other things that we can do, the Police Athletic League, being a police officer in San Antonio, I've done this where we hit an area real hard, and I say hit an area, maybe not the right terminology. We'll go into really hard crime areas and do our work, and then time passes. In the old days, you know, nothing really changed as much. You know, the guys get out of jail, they're going to go back to the same neighborhood. They live somewhere. And so we learned that coming in, doing a police athletic league was just a win-win. And what we did there is we'd go in literally through the streets and hand out flyers, or tell the parents that are there at home or whoever at the schools, the counselors, find us the kids. They're trying, I mean, they've got it really tough, their parents were arrested or whatever, and we'll teach them how to play baseball. We teach them how to play baseball, get equipment, too much equipment. You know, people are giving us stuff, and we're like, we don't have any place for it at the station. We got enough, you know. But if we can do that here, and I know some of the law enforcement here, again, everybody's swamped. But if they brought it, they have fields that they could use. You know, and frankly, we've never had luck using the little league fields in any of my baseball endeavors. And I know those are city fields. Another story, but the facts are the facts. If we had Police Athletic League, of course, we'd be putting on their league. We want to do baseball camps, home run derbies, college baseball evaluation days. These guys, these ex-pro ball players that want in on this, especially Jose, the main guy, we've talked about this, and I've told him time and again, and he understands it, and I'll keep telling him. Everybody that I know in this business says they're going to do home run derbies, and they all say they're going to do camps, and then they start falling away, and just the universities do them. Luckily, we have pretty good contacts with some of these universities, some of the college coaches, and we will get them over to our fields. Now, they may not come out in droves at the beginning. Once our boys start participating themselves in select ball, and we have something for them to see, they'll come out more. They don't want to go to a place and just say, well, we're going to do a camp, and it's great, and then keep coming back over and over if they realize there's no dedication and no infrastructure for baseball. So believe me, we're big on that. I'm big on that, so that we don't have to travel so much ourselves too for these things. Baseball-related movie nights or movie days, we've seen things like this. I've done it with the Police Athletic League. Not me directly, but there's people that wanted, well, I kind of organized it, so to speak, but I didn't go to the movie that day or anything. But you have to teach some of the kids about baseball. If they are Police Athletic League, those are kids that can't really afford baseball equipment. And that's who I kind of had catered this to. But it's for any kid. I would love to do that with Arcadia. I know when our kids were in daycare, we would send them to Arcadia anyway to watch movies and stuff. The event center would be a great place once this gets off the ground to do something like that. Peanut Festival baseball tournament, I mean, to me that's a win-win. I've looked at it every which way. It might be harder for the local teams to play, but that's just a matter of logistics. They have to be scheduled later. And that's another thing. These places give home cooking kind of to the coach, the local teams. They can play on Friday. If they don't want to wake up early Saturday morning, okay, we'll schedule you Friday. Oh, we have the festival. We got to be on a float or doing whatever with the peanut festival. Okay, we'll schedule them later. So that kind of thing. Baseball equipment drives, we'll do a couple of those, and I think that'll be very successful. We've got somebody who we're going to be working with, hopefully, with local people that deal with sporting goods and stuff like that. We hope to get baseball equipment to any kid who really wants to have it. As far as the business proposal, what we propose is that we have a ground lease with the city for that property adjacent to the event center, to that back parking lot, for a 10-year period. It's a long lease, but this way we feel like we're totally invested, and we want to make it the best ballpark we can, so that we can get our revenue back. Floresville Baseball Country will pay a lease payment of $1,000 a month. That's after a 10-year term. We want the right of first refusal for the new lease, and we would like in this proposal to lease the kitchen, the concession window, and the patio area for a 5-year period. Of course, that's negotiable. And when I say the kitchen, I know that I've learned that some people call it the bar. The window that leads right there to that back patio is the one that I'm talking about. Floresville Baseball Country will pay, well, I read that part. Let's see. Yes, yeah, again, after the 5-year term, we would have the right of first refusal. We'll pay a lease payment of $1,000 per month plus a negotiable percentage of concession revenue. That's approximately $4,000 a month total. After 5-year term, then we'll have the right of first refusal for that new lease term. Was that confusing? Because I kind of read it.
I think I understand.
Read the wrong line. Okay. Okay. If we cannot get a ground lease, which includes the kitchen, the concession window, and patio area, then we'd like to negotiate the terms for locating on the same property without the concession area. Now, there, we've looked at it closely. I'm not the engineer. George tells me that he thinks it's possible, but he would like to look again, and maybe, with y'all's permission, if it came down to that, of course, we want to negotiate that side door that leads out to the patio. It seems like, for example, if you said, well, the patio is not that, we want to have an event, and you're right there, and all these people and kids coming to use the concession. That side window seems a lot less intrusive, or side door rather, seems a lot less intrusive. And I understand there are some commercial companies that will have the type of door that can be changed with, where it's the same door, it's all the fire code things, everything, but it's a concession, becomes a concession window, basically that top opens and closed. Utilize that space and maybe rope off or somehow stay away from the patio that way, or the back end of the patio, if that were, we know the kitchen butts up to that, if it were possible to modify and put in a concession window exactly like that bar concession window, and place one at the rear of the property. We'd be open to any of these things that y'all would approve or feel is reasonable. depending on how much you would want us to use that patio. But this proposal initially would be for us to use the patio. And we'll go from there. We'd like to see the baseball field property flow nicely into the city park area for use of the playground and swimming pool area. That's, if you're familiar with these terms, that could be a very big one for the city as well. I know there's a high fence, it's got barbed wire on top, and at this point, I'm not saying we would do the modification of that. We know that that's a city park, and we'd like you to see how it's going with our baseball fields and so forth. But for it to flow into that area, you're going to have, especially in these hot summers, you have a ton of kids that don't want to watch little brother play. The family's there, and he's playing. He's going to be there. If he wins, he's going to be there 4 hours. So they want to take, the other 2 kids to the swimming pool, and so that we would like to see a real good, nice flow there. Again, we'll host the Miracle League if we can get that here to Floresville, and we will have someone who will at least get that off the ground, to a reasonable level. If it's shown, maybe not now, whenever, to get that going. We request that the city, that you draft lease agreements and provide us at least 15 days for review. That'd be 15 business days for our attorney to review that. His name is Jeff Gately out of San Antonio, but we can also, of course, be flexible with that. We'd rather it this way with you drafting it to what you wanted to negotiate. Bringing us, well, so how would we benefit? Obviously, I think you